An Extra Knife at Dinner, a Gabrielle Ibrahim mystery. An audio series by Patricia Asedegbega Nieto. Episode 8. Gabrielle, what an unexpected but very welcome surprise. I'm actually meeting Sandra for lunch. I hope you can join us. We've barely seen you since I was discharged. Mark got up to greet her and escorted her to the sofa in the corner of his office. I know, things have been hectic, she replied. I speak to Sandra almost daily, but our schedules keep clashing. Look, Mark, I wanted to see you first. There are things that have been bothering me since the party, and it's best we talk alone. Without Sandra, I mean. Gabrielle observed him for a moment. He looked at her, waiting for her to speak, and she decided to be direct. Why was Rachel Eremo at your mother's party? From the way Mark looked at her, it was obvious that it was the last thing that he had expected to be asked, and wasn't a topic he was comfortable with. I have no idea, he replied. I wasn't in charge of the planning. I basically only gave the names of the people at our table. My sister and Mum were responsible for the list, and though I was surprised to see her, I said hello, but that was basically all the interaction we had. Then everything got so crazy. The truth is that I haven't even thought about her since. I understand you dated. How did things end between you two? Gabrielle asked. Well, dated is overstretching the concept of whatever it was. My mother caught me in between girlfriends and gave me the usual talk, told me it was about time I settled down. She was tired of seeing me move from one woman to another, and announced that she had the perfect candidate for me. So I met her. Then when I met Sandra, it was crystal clear who I really wanted to be with. Mark explained. Did you make it crystal clear to Rachel? Gabrielle, given what he had said, was not sure about that point. From the silence that ensued after her question, the answer was obvious. Mark, you didn't have a conversation with her. Let me guess, you just stopped calling and thought she'd get the message. Did you go on dates with Sandra and her at the same time? It looks really bad when I hear you say it, and I see now that Sandra will be of the same opinion, Mark admitted. Listen, it really was informal to me. We were getting to know each other, and I hadn't given her a ring or anything like that. Okay, I see from your expression that my explanation isn't helping matters. I was just accustomed to doing things the wrong way for a very long time, and this is all new to me. But I really love Sandra. Losing her is not an option. Please, don't tell her. Gabrielle shook her head. Mark, your mother doesn't like Sandra. It took only a few minutes in her company for me to arrive at that conclusion. I like seeing her happy, and she seems to be with you. But let's get one thing clear. My friend is Sandra, and she has my loyalty. I'll give you a chance to set the record straight with your mum and Rachel, but Mark, I won't allow them to mistreat or respect her. At the slightest sign of that, I will explain the situation to her, and I can assure you Sandra will walk away. Now tell me, is Rachel vindictive? How far is she willing to go to get what she wants? It's evident that both mothers are interested in a match between the two of you. I will handle it, I promise. You have absolutely nothing to worry about. I know that she was purposely invited, and I know that they have hope, and are still scheming, but that's all it will be. This company is mine. I don't need my parents' money to survive. But you're right. I have to have a proper conversation with my mother so she's very clear about my intentions. As for Rachel being vindictive, I don't know. She did call a few times for us to meet up, and I declined. Our last conversation was less than cordial. But I don't know her well enough to know how far she's willing to go. This conversation has made me nervous. There are a number of things I didn't give enough thought to, Mark said. Gabrielle did not like the situation either. But she knew that if she told Sandra what she knew, the relationship would not stand a chance, and Mark's feelings seemed genuine. She decided to change the subject. At that point, there wasn't much more that she could do. Just then she received a message from Chooks asking if she could join him for lunch. He had something to tell her. "I'm afraid that I can't join you guys for lunch. Something just came up." "Mark, I really do like what you guys have, but Sandra doesn't need another heartache. Please grow up. And that means not assuming that a woman's in the same place as you are, or that she doesn't deserve an explanation when you decide to end things. Rachel might have every right to be upset if she feels that she was led on or promises were made and not kept. This is coming from a very good place. Mark, fix it before it all blows up in your face." Gabrielle stared at him for a moment, and he nodded as he got up to see her off. "You ladies are so protective of each other. Makes me question a lot of my relationships, and it's scary at the same time knowing that I don't only have one person to answer to. I have to ask, since we're all wondering and holding our breath, is there any hope for Alex and you?" Gabrielle paused. He had been honest with her when he could have lied. Even knowing she would not approve of his answer, she owed him the same. "No, that's over," she replied, turning and reaching for the doorknob. "Before I met you, I only knew of you as the Ice Queen," Mark said. "When I did meet you, it felt like you put up a number of walls, but you're far from indifferent or cold, and Alex was really happy when you were in his life. One can only hope that you guys sort out whatever's happening or not happening between you two. You really are good for him. It feels like the ball's in your court, Gabrielle. So I just wanted to let you know that. I'm rooting for you guys. But no pressure, just wishful thinking on my part. Thanks for coming to me first before going to Sandra. Let's get together soon." He smiled at her. Gabrielle walked into the restaurant and was greeted by a hostess, who escorted her to a corner table. Chooks was already seated, but speaking on his mobile. From the conversation, he seemed to be talking to a nurse about the care of a patient who was in recovery after surgery. "Sorry about that. It's been a hectic morning. How are you?" Chooks asked, as a waitress handed them each a menu. "Fine. I spoke to George today, and on the way here I got an email with the photographs taken by the agency that was at the party," Gabrielle said. "Ngozi, Nnamdi's wife, was able to buy them on my behalf. I haven't opened it yet. I also got the knives over to William. Hopefully we'll have an answer soon." "That's why I asked if you were free. I got a call from him. He was able to look into it this morning, and he says you weren't stabbed with any of those knives. You can read the email." A feeling of dread settled in her stomach as she read the very technical email in which measurements, widths and edges were compared. She had hoped until that moment that there had been some kind of mistake. She sighed as she handed the phone back to him. The waitress put her plate of rice before her, and Gabrielle stared at it. She had completely lost her appetite. "I'm sorry. I know it wasn't what you expected. You really need to be careful. Watch what you eat, where you eat, and the company you keep. The driver you have, how long has he been working for you?" Chooks asked. "Not long. He was employed in my absence. I was out of the country, but he's punctual, responsible and hard-working," Gabrielle replied. "Can you reassign him for a while until this is sorted, or give him leave? Whichever you prefer. Tomorrow Solomon will report for duty. He's an ex-army man and excellent at his work. He now runs a small security company and has protected some high-profile individuals. He's very discreet." Gabrielle was still mulling over the report and found herself nodding. Donatus could work anywhere in the company. That would not be an issue. "Who else is new in your company? That has access to you or your office, I mean?" Chooks asked. "As I don't have a lot of free time and I don't want to worry about you, I spoke to my contact at the police. I asked that they keep an eye out for anyone suspicious at the party regarding the stab wound. I forwarded the email to him, and he said he'd speak to William too, and let us know if something new comes up. It's really all quite strange, though. Antonia's initial plan to poison you would have made more sense, Why try to stab you in front of witnesses? It feels rather risky. I've been thinking about that. But back to your environment. Well, any new members of staff? Thanks. I mean it. For not walking away and for your time. It suddenly hit me as I read that email that I could have died that evening, and it would have all been chucked down to the robbers. You do raise a good point about the party being too public for that kind of crime, though. That Solomon man, can he also do some investigative work? Because I spoke to George, and that Naomi woman is very suspicious. I get the feeling that she appeared and disappeared very conveniently. Regarding my staff, I'm not on top of the hiring, really. There's a human resources department that takes care of that aspect. The company has a lot of employees from the boutique, the office, the workshop, security, drivers, but the closest person to me is my personal assistant, Uki. She started about 3 months ago. She was sent along with a few more candidates from an agency. The director interviewed them, and I decided between the 3 people she liked. Uki had excellent references and has been brilliant at her work. She was the one who got the knives from the company that organised the party and is going to the catering company. I didn't tell her why I needed the information, though. Gabrielle looked worriedly at Chooks. And she might be just that, an excellent personal assistant. But she's the one that practically manages your life, Chooks said. Aside from Sandra, this Uki person knew for sure that you changed your mind about attending that party. She had the best opportunity to help get you out of the way. Whoever tried to kill you might not be trying to harm you directly, but hurt someone close to you, a means to an end. Solomon can look into her. He continued tucking into his food. She brings me my coffee every day, and my food, Gabrielle said, and sighed. Chooks raised an eyebrow, and just as he was in the middle of cutting his chicken, his phone rang. The doctor pressed the screen, put it on speaker, and set the phone on the table. Chooks, you need to come over. Another one was just brought in, and she's in really bad shape. I'm not sure she'll make it. How soon can you be here? I'll leave immediately, the man replied. Gabrielle, quick on her feet, signalled the waiter and gave him enough money to cover the bill. She had recognised the voice as belonging to the man running the facility Antonia was in. There was no way she was going to allow Chooks to leave her behind. She needed to speak to her half-sister. Gabrielle felt the car slow down. She understood that they were arriving at their destination. It was evident that Chooks still did not trust her enough to allow her to see where they were heading. And when she had followed him to the car, he hadn't bothered arguing with her, simply handing her the blindfold. Gabrielle wondered how many people he had taken there to have the blindfold ready, including the people being taken there for refuge, in case they were tempted to divulge their whereabouts. During the drive, he had spoken a few times with a woman she guessed was a nurse, giving her instructions about the person who had been brought in. Gabrielle said a prayer for her. The atmosphere was tense, and Gabrielle was sure Chooks had broken every speed limit to get them to wherever it was they were. The car came to a halt, and Gabrielle took off her blindfold, her eyes adjusting to the light. Edmund must have been waiting for the noise of the car arriving as the doors opened soon after it pulled up. Chooks, bag in hand, hurried over to him, and they disappeared through the open door. Gabrielle looked around, not knowing what to do. There didn't seem to be anyone on the grounds, at least not in the area she could see. She decided to walk to the back of the building in the hope of finding someone who could call Antonia for her. It somehow felt wrong to just walk in and intrude. Hopefully there would be a back door. The kitchen of most houses had one leading to a backyard. After walking for a bit, she came across what looked like a vegetable garden, where a woman was weeding between 2 rows of plants, and Gabrielle approached her. "Good evening." The woman turned around and almost jumped up in fright, taking a step back as Gabrielle held out her hands. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to startle you. I'm here with Dr. Agechi." He came to attend to someone. On hearing Chooks' name, the woman stopped walking backward. I had to come out here. I just couldn't. She stuttered, and Gabrielle moved closer and held her. The woman was trembling. Gabrielle did not know what to say, so she tentatively led her to a stone-walled flower bed that, on closer inspection, turned out to be a herb garden. They sat in silence for a moment, Gabrielle not daring to speak and instead looking around at her surroundings. That was me 9 months ago. When I saw her being carried in, I had to leave. I had to come out here. It didn't matter how hot the sun was. Her screams. The woman just stared ahead as she spoke, as if speaking to herself. Caroline, there you are. I've been looking all over for you. A middle-aged woman came out through the back door and walked towards them. Seeing Gabrielle, she hesitated. Good evening. Can I help you? I arrived with Dr. Agechi. I was wondering if I could see Antonia. She's my sister, Gabrielle asked, and the woman smiled. Oh, nice to meet you. If Dr. Agechi brought you here, then it must be okay. I'll get her for you. The woman made to turn around, and Gabrielle hurried to catch up with her. Excuse me, do you work here? Gabrielle asked. Yes, I came here about a year ago, and I've stayed on. I'm good in the kitchen, and I like being useful. My name's Gladys. I don't know how much you know about the place. Dr. Agechi explained it in a few sentences, and whatever doubts I had have been cleared up by what I saw today. How's the lady that was brought in? Gabrielle asked the woman, who shook her head. I don't know. We're all praying, but the doctor hasn't come out yet. Gabrielle had wondered if the police should not have been involved. Wouldn't it be better to take her to the hospital? Some of us that come here do so under extreme conditions. Here we hide away and we get help, psychological and legal. If treatment's required, we get our doctor's report, and when we're prepared to go back into the world, we're given some training and jobs are found for us. Look at me. You think I didn't visit the hospital on countless occasions and file police reports? I did all that. Do you know my husband even came to beat me up in my parents' house? My father got injured when he tried to save me. I was so down. I had nowhere to go, no job, no savings. And then one day, I was deep in thought on my way back home from doing some shopping, and I just crossed the street without looking. You know when you're just walking, as if in a trance. I got hit by a car and was rushed to the hospital. You know, that was the best day I'd had in years, because it was Edmund's driver who hit me. Did my husband come and see me in the week I was on admission? Of course not. But Edmund did. He noticed my apathy that went beyond my injuries. He didn't ask me any questions, just gave me his card and asked that I call him if I needed help. The next beating had me calling the number. I didn't even know who I was calling. But something told me that things would only get worse, and I needed to hear what the man that paid my hospital bill had to offer. The rest, as they say, is history. You really have no idea the situations people here are in when they arrive. Some of us need to disappear, and some return to the world as soon as they're back on their feet. I'm one of the few that stayed. I basically only leave to go to church. I feel safe here, and I can't return to a man that sees me as his property, that can beat me at will or put my parents' lives in danger. A man that beat me up even whilst I was 6 months pregnant. A beating that resulted in the death of that child, and people asking me constantly why I didn't have one when that man... Gladys's voice shook, and she looked away. Gabrielle tried to hold back her tears as she observed her surroundings. It was sad that such a place had to exist, because people felt their lives and those of their loved ones were under threat. How's Antonia settling in? Gabrielle asked her a few minutes later. It's taken her a bit to adjust. I don't know her story, but it was evident that at first she really didn't want to be here, and wasn't good at cleaning or doing the dishes, basically any of the jobs she was asked to do. Sally, the manager, didn't know what to ask her to do next, but her arrival coincided with the end of the month, and let me tell you, Your sister is good with numbers. She sorted out in 2 days what Sally does in over a week. Let me get her for you." With a smile, the woman held out her hand to Caroline, and they both went into the house. A few minutes later, Antonia emerged, and Gabrielle braced herself for her scathing remarks. "Hello, Antonia. How are you holding up?" she asked, and the younger woman shrugged in reply. There was an uncomfortable silence after that. "Where are you on clearing my name? Have you spoken to Bisola? Checked out my movements?" Antonia asked eventually. "I have. I've got nowhere with locating the person you were in conversation with. But now I know that someone tried to kill me. Look at this email." The younger woman read William's email that Chooks had forwarded to Gabrielle. "It wasn't me, I promise. You need to look elsewhere. Maybe someone's mad at you for your relationship with Alex. Or for who you were sitting next to. Bisola said Naomi didn't look like a person that could be trusted. What do you know about her? You can't just be investigating me." Antonia gesticulated in annoyance as she spoke. "I'm trying to look into everything, but I'm not a detective, and it's going frustratingly slow." "What do you know about Rachel Eremo?" Gabrielle asked. "That she says she'll marry Mark this year, no matter what it takes. I'm guessing she has nothing against you. Now, had it been Sandra that was stabbed, Rachel would be my suspect number 1. Neither she nor her mother are very scrupulous, to be honest, and, after what happened with your new doctor friend, she won't let this one go easily. Thinking about it, she won't be happy seeing you around her doctor." Antonia grinned, obviously enjoying the situation. "If I were you, dear sister, I'd find another protector. As you can appreciate, my desire for wanting you dead has decreased slightly. Had it been before, I wouldn't have warned you about Rachel's extreme vindictiveness." "Oh, great. Honestly, problems just keep piling up," Gabrielle replied. "There's nothing going on that should worry her. Take a look at the list of guests. Is there anyone whose presence arouses suspicion in you?" She showed her sister the photograph of the list, and she went through it. "Chief Affair is Daddy's sworn enemy. He's promised to get even with him somehow. I didn't see him whilst I was there, so I don't know if he ended up attending or not. Let me have your phone." Antonia grabbed it from her and began to type something. "Here's an online pic of him. Does he look familiar?" Gabrielle shook her head. She had not really paid attention to people outside their table. "Oh, Mrs. Akafa. Until you came and opened up your branch, she ran 5 of the most exclusive boutiques in the country, full of designer items. She had to close 2 of them, and she sort of blames you. Did I mention that I told her you said you wanted to run your competition to the ground at a party we both attended? Perhaps I did. Is that a reason to try to kill you? Who knows? People do crazy things." Gabrielle gasped. The other woman had the good grace to look away. "Antonia, is there any end to your scheming? I hope we can sort this out so you can get back to your life." "No hurry. I think you have some pressing issues. But when next you come, please don't do so empty-handed. Let me have your phone so I can write the things you can buy. Not a lot of luxuries here." Without waiting for a reply, Antonia took the phone from Gabrielle and started typing away. Gabrielle studied the tall man standing before her, who Esther had let into the dining room where she was having her breakfast. She had barely remembered the previous evening to ask Donatus to report directly to the company that morning. "Dr. Agechi spoke to you on my behalf, but he didn't tell me about the conditions for hiring you. Is there a contract to be signed?" Gabrielle inquired. "Oh, he took care of it all, and paid my services for a month," the man Solomon replied. "Oh, no, I want to pay for them. Can I have the invoice so I can transfer the money to him?" Gabrielle asked. "I'm sorry, that's something you'll have to discuss with him. I don't want to reveal what I'm not supposed to, madam. There's always time to be indiscreet," he said. I understand. Would you like some breakfast? Solomon shook his head. I'll be done in a few moments. If you prefer waiting in the living room, I'll be there shortly. An hour later, they were in her office. Gabrielle had left a voice message for Chooks, who, as was to be expected, did not pick up. They had gone through the photographs together the previous evening, but had been quite tired, and all she had been able to identify was Naomi. I understood that you also do some investigative work, Gabrielle began. I got the names of the people that have come into the company in the last 6 months, if you could look into them. But these 3 are the ones that have direct access to me. Also, there's this woman that was at the party. I've been trying to call her, but her phone's switched off. The person that brought her hasn't heard from her again. Her name's Naomi. I'm afraid that I have little more information about her. She handed him the printed photographs, in which Naomi was most visible. I'll get onto it as soon as possible. I have contacts that can help me, Solomon replied. Also, here's the list of people that attended the party, Gabrielle went on. Anything you can find out will be useful, as I seem to have hit a brick wall. I only know that I was stabbed, and I don't know if it was connected to the robbery or not. My friend Sandra had her bag snatched. It was an exclusive design worth a lot of money. I've been looking online at the usual sites to see if it's been up for sale. I contacted my distributors and the auction house I normally work with, but nothing's come up so far. I don't have a list of items stolen, but isn't it strange that my watch was very expensive, but it wasn't taken? Yet they took away a piece of jewellery from a woman that was clearly fake. You appear in this photograph, and your cape does cover your arms. Had I been one of the robbers, I would have assumed you had a watch. Can I see the rest of the photographs? The man asked, and Gabrielle opened the email and showed them to him. He was silent for a moment. Who's this woman staring at you? He pointed to a photograph. Gabrielle had not noticed her when she had gone over the pictures before, but in one of them, as Gabrielle stood in front of the massive image of the celebrant in the photo call, a woman was staring directly at her. It was Mrs. Akafa. Gabrielle remembered what Antonia had said about her the previous evening. Apparently she's recently had to close several boutiques, Gabrielle said. She was one of the people that was robbed at the party. I believe she blames me for having to downsize her business. I'll look online and find out the names of her stores. I'll also make a few calls and try to get more information about her. You can leave if you have to. I won't be needing you until 1:30. I'm having lunch with my friend at 2 p.m. Thank you. Don't eat anything till I'm back to drive you to the restaurant, the serious-looking man warned. I took the liberty of emptying your fridge here. I'll take the contents to a lab. I asked one of your workers at your home to pack some snacks, tea and water. I'll be back by 1:15 p.m. He took his leave, and Gabrielle marvelled at all he had done that morning without her noticing. She picked up her phone and called Ngozi. Hi, Ngozi. How are you doing? Thank you so much for the photographs. Did they cost any more than what I transferred? Oh no, it was more than sufficient, Ngozi replied. I couldn't get the name of the person that granted them access and gave the agency all the particulars of the party, though. But I was assured that the information didn't come from any member of Mark's family and that they were told you and Alex were going to be there. You know that that's an image the media would like to get hold of and would pay a lot of money for. See what a good friend I am. I never took advantage of my position. She and Gabrielle laughed. Did you notice anything strange in any of the photographs? Gabrielle asked. She had looked over them, but nothing had stood out to her. The women were very expensively dressed. They'd smiled for the camera and stayed at the photo call for more photographs than the men had. Not really, obviously. Namdi and I were featured in just 2. Not at all surprised that we weren't the target. There was even a waitress that appeared more than us. Ngozi chuckled, and Gabrielle wrote down a reminder to try to identify the waitress when she went over the images again. Did your contact tell you when they got the assignment? Gabrielle asked. I only decided to go that very evening after Sandra emotionally blackmailed me. I'll ask, but you should know that though you decided that day, Sandra had already confirmed your attendance because the party planner needed to know. Basically, anyone that saw the list could have tried to make money out of the situation. These photographs haven't been published because the police are looking for the people that took them. The photographers are considered witnesses at best, but they don't want to come forward. So now they can't make money out of them. Though, with what you paid, the trip was worth it for them. We need to get together soon. I want to properly announce my good news. I'll organise a dinner with just us. Something positive to shake off the bitter taste of what happened, Ngozi said. Yes, you deserve a proper celebration. Just let me know when. They chatted a bit more and said goodbye. Gabrielle had the feeling that something of importance had been said, but she had no idea what. Looking through the photographs, she spotted the waitress in several, tray of drinks in hand. The photo call was placed outside the house before the main entrance. Was it normal to serve drinks there? Shouldn't she have been in the hall? Gabrielle printed the photograph and put it in her bag. The young woman was definitely a person of interest. There were a couple of photographs in which male waiters appeared. None too clear, but Gabrielle suddenly remembered what Bisola had said about a waiter not allowing her to take a drink. She would ask Uki to show the photographs to the catering company. Perhaps they could learn something else, and maybe even identify someone masquerading as catering staff. To stay up to date with Patricia Asedegbega's work, make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications.